season already? But I still have my COVID-19 decorations up.
Hauntcast. Radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics. Clench your jewels and hang on for your life.
Welcome back to the dungeon, me minions. Hauntcast is a radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics. Oozing with haunt tips, tricks, tactics, news reviews, how-tos, interviews, and lots of booze. He's the Joe Exotic of haunt and horror podcasting, our G-host, Baker.
What's up? What is this Hauntcast? Radio for haunters?
Baker!
Huh?
Baker!
What?
Will you take that thing off already?
What's the problem?
Why are you still wearing that mask? There's only two of us, and I'm already dead. So I'm not at risk of catching your herpetogonosyphilades. And don't you think wearing a full head silicone mask is a bit much?
Hey, if I have to wear a mask, I'm going balls deep. Speaking of that, it's time to lube up because I'm going in hard and I'm going in fast. And it's probably gonna hurt. By the way, if you are new to the program, prepare to be deflowered. This is the Halloweenies' favorite podcast,
Yeah, to hate.
Hauntcast. The Scream team is back and bringing you all of the killer with none of the filler. Hark! He hears a haunter call of distress. He dashes to the nearest phone booth, not to change into a supersuit, but to phone it in once again. Revenant will present a barely passable theater of the mind. The champion of the body positive movement, Johnny Thunder, will line up a menagerie of shots to swill and movies to kill. JT reviews Candy Witch, Rootwood, Cry for the Batman, Don't Run, and The Wretched. Our resident Karen, Morbid Mariah, will ask to see your manager after she bends your ear with the creepiest cornucopia of commodities from all corners of the darkest web. The delinquent dad who went out for a pack of cigs 6 months ago and finally returned home, Wick Ed Gannon, will hopefully talk about how to utilize murder hornets in your haunt during something wicked. Well, that was just my suggestion.
Baker, take a drink. I got this. Exercising his privilege, our G-host will stumble into the haunted Laurianne woods with only a camel pack full of vodka, a half-eaten tuna fish sandwich, and a designer merkin, in search of its boss man, Ben Newman. He'll also shamelessly shill Patreon, PayPal, and Subscribe Star support, peddle his used props on Facebook, try to shake down vendors for free product, and alienate himself from the 5 people in the haunt community that he hasn't already pissed off.
Hey, Scully, there's no time for foolishness, so I'll take it from here. Why don't you throw a couple of bats on the Barbie as I cue up the Tefafon with contemporary cuts from Calabrese's Flee the Night LP and my interview with Ben Newman from the haunted Laurianne Woods is dead ahead.
Hauntcast.
He who flees the light.
Who's got the biggest selection of music, from rockabilly to metal, from punk to gothic? Scully O'Toole's Music.
Scully's got it!
Half-off cassette singles now through October. Scully O'Toole's Music, located at 13 Elm Street, inside the Kruger Mall, next to Chess Camp.
Theater of the Mind. Schadenfreude, a German word that literally translates as harm joy, is the rather nasty and all too human tendency to feel pleasure or satisfaction at someone else's misfortune, failure, or humiliation. While this can describe the sadistic enjoyment of someone's true suffering, it can also be used to mean the rather petty and smug satisfaction of seeing someone who disagrees with you be proven embarrassingly wrong. And if that someone was particularly nasty and condescending about that opinion, the aforementioned smug satisfaction is all the more sweet. The reason I got to musing on this concept is my recent revisiting of one of my favorite horror movies of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing. When it debuted, the film was, to put it mildly and tactfully, not well received. To put it bluntly and matter-of-factly, it was pretty much universally shit-canned. It didn't bomb at the box office per se. At least it made its $15 million budget back, plus $4 or $5 million in profit, but it wasn't very successful either, and the critics positively savaged it. The film was described alternately as boring, derivative, nihilistic, bereft of warmth or humanity, sterile, poorly acted, and lacking in pacing, continuity, and character development. A few critics didn't hold back, calling it instant junk, a surprising failure, Carpenter's most unsatisfying film to date, and, drumroll please, the quintessential moron movie of the 80s. Gee, if I didn't know any better, I'd say they didn't like it very much. Go figure. But eventually, the home video revolution hit. The film was rediscovered, and now it's widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential horror films of the latter 20th century. Eat ass, Vincent Canby, you sanctimonious prick. Any movie you crap on in one of your reviews instantly goes to the front of the line of movies I want to see. While credit was given to the technical accomplishment of the horrific special effects, some even described Rob Bottin's work as genius, unforgettable, and appallingly creative. The effects were nonetheless criticized as too extreme, horrifying, and gruesome, detracting from the human elements of the story. They were dismissed by some as merely atrocity for atrocity's sake, some going so far as to call them obscene. And keep in mind, the movie was released in June of 1982, right in the middle of the summer blockbuster season, directly opposite E.T. In one movie, you had an adorably ugly but sweet and kind-hearted alien who brings several cute all-American children on a wondrous and exciting adventure, bringing them the gift of true friendship. In the other, you had an alien who traps a group of men in a claustrophobic warren of frozen tunnels and commences to biting off heads and arms, melting dogs, exploding torsos, and turning everyone against each other in paranoia and panic until everyone dies. Yeah, that one didn't go over so well with the general movie-going populace. But man, oh man, did I dig it. I loved the claustrophobic atmosphere, the awesome Ennio Morricone music score, the unbearable tension of the steadily increasing paranoia of the characters, and, of course, the unbelievably insane and gruesome creature effects. The term body horror was unknown to me at the time, but it was something I knew I really dug. Body horror is a subgenre of horror which showcases the visually graphic or psychologically disturbing violation of the human physical form. While that might technically describe any number of slasher films, in body horror, the violation or distortion of the body is usually not due to a direct act of physical violence. Rather, the body's destruction or transmutation is usually due to decomposition, disease, technological or mechanical augmentation, mutation, or mutilation and recomposition into an altered form. It invokes physical and psychological disgust and plays upon the audience's deep-seated anxieties of physical vulnerability and loss of control over one's bodily integrity. In monster or slasher movies, the audience generally feels a sense of distancing between themselves and the victims on screen. But in body horror, the objective is often to get into people's heads by making them experience the victim's horror and despair at witnessing their own helplessness and destruction. When you mention body horror to a horror movie fan, the first name that comes up is often Canadian director David Cronenberg. He no longer does horror, but when he did earlier in his career, body horror was clearly his bailiwick. While I did see The Thing on the big screen, it was actually in 1984, 2 years after its theatrical release, and I had already previously seen 2 Cronenberg films, Scanners, which came out in 81, and Videodrome, released in 83. Those 2 movies, together with The Thing, firmly established in my mind the idea that the corruption of the flesh into something horrible is one of the most disturbing and unsettling themes in all of horror. Later films of Cronenberg's that I saw and enjoyed included The Dead Zone, the insanely twisted and bewildering Naked Lunch, and of course what is considered his body horror masterpiece, The Fly. The Fly, both the original 1958 version and Cronenberg's remake in 86, presented us with a monster that was at once both repulsive and sympathetic, as the main character suffers horrible alterations to his body resulting from scientific research gone awry, and desperately tries to restore his rapidly diminishing humanity. Body horror predates movies, however. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is perhaps the first noteworthy work in the subgenre, and Edgar Allan Poe dabbled in it as well. But H.P. Lovecraft truly broke the genre wide open with hideous depictions of physical corruption, be it due to alien infection, diabolical scientific meddling, degenerative breeding, or transmutation by contact with forces from beyond. Later authors like Richard Matheson, Ramsey Campbell, John W. Campbell, who wrote the story The Thing was based on, by the way, Clive Barker, and Stephen King, continued to hone the craft in literature. Japan has always been a fertile field for body horror, whether it be in movies, manga, or anime. Japanese folklore is absolutely crammed with monsters and spirits that present as weirdly distorted human beings. Side note, if you've ever wondered why so damn many Japanese horror movies seem to always have that creepy girl with the long hair covering her face, it's because there's probably at least 20 or so spirits, demons, and creatures that present that way. It's part of their zeitgeist. It's an image they've all known since childhood. But I digress. Curses, in Japanese folklore, are not so much an evil magic spell, but an actual living sentient demon created through malice or atrocity, and they're often seen wreaking destructive hell on the bodies of their victims. And it's not just the spirit realm that can tear you apart and turn you into something awful. In Lovecraftian fashion, the scientific mind in its search for ultimate knowledge can produce horrible monstrosities that destroy the body and devour the soul. Modern Japan is one of the science and technology capitals of the world, but the Japanese people's relationship with science and technology is a shaky and often contradictory one, laced with both embrace and mistrust. World War II probably has something to do with that. Manga and anime like Akira show scientific experimentation producing unholy biomechanical hybrids that grow and reproduce uncontrollably, becoming more and more powerful and ultimately leading to cataclysmic destruction. In The Haunt, deft use of body horror can produce some truly visceral gut punches to the audience, either in the makeup and costuming of the actors or in static or animated props. Movies can provide some great visual examples to springboard the haunter's creativity and inspire some backstories and themes. For example, there's the alien parasite theme, maybe where a biolab is researching a sample of extraterrestrial origin which escapes containment, starts growing out of control, and begins assimilating the staff and security, producing horrifying, no longer fully human hybrids. They could be seen as a sort of genetic splice where their features are in various states of change into something alien, or an infestation where horrible things start reproducing inside their bodies and erupting to the surface in gruesome ways, like creatures squirming under the skin, tentacles sprouting from chests, and extra eyes or orifices appearing in weird places. The latter example looks even better, in my opinion, if the placement of these additions is asymmetrical and random looking, as it helps hammer home the idea that this is a human being that's being consumed by an outside invader. Another example would be an attached parasite taking over someone's body, like the head crabs from the Half-Life video game. There's the surgical or medical approach, where a mad scientist tampers with human bodies by adding or rearranging body parts, or even grafting together multiple humans. I know what some of you are thinking, but I would advise against going the human centipede route. That one's likely to draw some complaints and get you shut down. Or augmenting the body mechanically like in Frankenstein's army. Mutation via environmental contamination is always fun. Our own G-host Chris has been running that theme for years in his Village Mire home haunt. Disease can be used to revolting effect, either in wet and gory ways, a la cabin fever, or with rot or plague carbuncles or whatever, though I'd probably choose to avoid the disease theme this year for obvious reasons. And of course, there's the transformation and dehumanization of being taken over by mysterious malevolent forces like demons, curses, or extra-dimensional beings. The only limit is your imagination. Since the starting point is the human body, and the mission is to twist, deform, violate, or corrupt it in some horrible ways, there's endless directions you could take it. The fundamental goal of body horror is to be disturbing, and the most disturbing examples are the ones that force the viewer to see the humanity, or former humanity, of the repulsive being they see before them. That's where we start to slide into uncanny valley territory, where something is undeniably familiar, but just wrong. Whether it's a rotting, putrescent zombie from The Walking Dead, the hybridized, ruptured, fleshy nightmares of the Thing, the mutilated, sadomasochistic Cenobites of Hellraiser, or the biomechanical necroborgs of the Japanese low-budget splatterfest meatball machine. It's the recognition of the vestiges of the human being behind the horror that makes the horror visceral. A monster is just a monster, and that can certainly be frightening enough, but a monstrosity that once was human, that tickles a few deeper, darker chords in the shadowy corners of the mind. It forces the viewer to think, that was once a person just like me. That, in the circumstances I've been shown, could actually be me. And that's not a comfortable thought. One thing's for certain, if the majority of your haunt's guests consists of small children, then the body horror route is probably not your best choice. It's definitely a little on the more hardcore side, and it's better suited for at least the over 10 crowd, and of course the harder stuff for teens and young adults. It doesn't have to be a central part of the haunt's theme. Just one or two choice examples in a haunt can provide some of your audience's most long-lasting and unsettling memories. Just remember, while pulling off good, effective body horror scares can be a daunting task, you don't need to get all bent out of shape over it. But somebody does. Keep the ghost light burning. From the Theater of the Mind, I'm Revenant, and you are listening to Hauntcast.
The darkest web.
Hello, my lovelies. Well, what a crazy year this has been so far, and we're already halfway through 2020. I had to miss contributing to the last episode again due to flooded house issues, but I'm back and I have a bunch of fun, spooky stuff to blab about. So buckle up, kids. I'm about to bend your ear for a bit. Since most of us have been stuck in our homes for a chunk of time, there's a good chance you've OD'd a bit on watching TV. But in case you still want some recommendations, here are some creepy things I watched while sheltering at home. I know many of you have already watched American Horror Story 1984, but I hadn't until recently because I'm cheap and I refuse to pay extra to see it. And if you're thrifty like me, I want to point out that it's now available with your subscription to Hulu. This came out in September of last year and is the 9th season of the show. Like most haunters, I love the nostalgic slashers of the 1980s, so the fact that this season was very much influenced by Friday the 13th and Halloween and relied on tons of classic horror tropes made it instantly appealing to me. To be perfectly honest, it was predictable and poorly written, but did I binge the whole damned thing? Yes, I did. I enjoyed it and all its cheesy, silly, gory fun, and maybe you will too. Our old pal Stephen King has been having a pretty successful run of movies, TV, and streaming shows based on his work the last couple of years, and one of the newest examples that I want to mention is The Outsider, which premiered on HBO in January of this year. It begins as an investigation into the gruesome murder of a young boy, but as the investigation progresses, more mysterious and supernatural forces seem to be involved. It was wonderfully unsettling, with that kind of great slow burn that I really love. I have to say, as is often the case for me with King's work, the ending felt kinda unsatisfying, but it's a really well-acted, captivating story that I think's worth a watch just for the mysterious, creepy factor. The last series I want to talk about is from the Netherlands. It's called Ares. That's spelled A-R-E-S. It's a psychological horror story about a young, overly ambitious college student who joins a mysterious secret society. But as the show progresses, she finds that there's something rather dark and sinister going on within this group, and a horrible secret that the society is guarding. I'm not quite done with this one, but it's pretty interesting. Do be warned, though, that there is an awful lot of puking in this show, so if you tend to be an emetophobe like me, it can be rather difficult to watch at times. It's only 8 episodes long, with each being about 20 to 30 minutes long, so it's not a huge time investment. You can find Ares on Netflix. Since we're a mere 4-ish months away from Halloween now, I'm sure most of us are at least beginning to plan for this year's haunt or costume and maybe looking for inspiration. So I want to point out a couple of artists that I find inspiring. Let's talk about Kelly O'Dell. She's a talented makeup artist from the UK and the founder of Collective, which is a freelance business offering services like makeup, hairstyling, special effects makeup, and body art. A particular project she did that you might want to take a peek at is the Bipola art photo shoot. Bipola is spelled B-I-P-O-L-A. This special effects makeup was inspired by the struggles that people with mental illness suffer. But I think it's something we can all relate to. We all have inner demons, self-doubt, thoughts that hold you back or drag you down. And this makeup illustrates what that might look like if you could literally see what the sufferer was feeling. The makeup features hands that seem to be reaching out from inside the model's body, and hands that appear to scratch and claw from within, and faces with tortured expressions. There's an ambigram on the forehead of the model that reads, "I'm fine," but when turned upside down says, "Save me." Really haunting stuff. I'm going to include a direct link to Kelly's Facebook page, as well as to the Bipola art photo shoot in the show notes. Or you can do a Google search for Bipola art shoot, again that's B-I-P-O-L-A, or search for Collective by Kelly on Facebook and peruse her albums for various pictures of her work. Collective is spelled K-O-L-L-E-C-T-I-V-E by Kelly. The second artist is a fellow Arizonan named Rob Kobaski. I first became aware of his amazing sculptural work while looking around on Instagram, and I was immediately intrigued and fascinated. I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to send me a bunch of amazing pictures and videos of his work. Rob is a self-taught freelance artist who does all kinds of creative endeavors like sculpting, special effects makeup, mold making, and character design, just to name a few. His work has been displayed and sold in various art shows, galleries, featured in independent films, and he's done commission work for private clients. His work is incredibly detailed and lifelike, both grotesque and beautiful. Some of his creations are zombie warriors, skeletal cowboys, monsters, and all variety of creatures. And he makes masks and appliances as well. He sculpts in clay, casts in silicone, uses tattered fabric and clothing, and applies real human hair one strand at a time. Interesting fun fact, the hair is often from the clippings of his clientele. He and his wife run a salon. And he actually used to own a pro haunt called House of Screams. You can find lots of great images of his work on Instagram and Facebook, and I've included a link in the show notes to a really great article about him and his work written by Cindy Brown for her blog. Be sure to check out his 8-foot-tall Frankenstein's monster. It's pretty mind-blowingly gorgeous. Do some searching for Rob Kobaski and you'll find him. That's spelled C-O-B-A-S-K-Y. If you're looking for some really awesome silicone masks and have some dough to drop on such a thing, take a look at immortalmasks.com. They have lots of incredible masks with multiple paint treatment options. They have both male and female fit masks, as well as half masks. The full masks run about $550 to $800, while the half masks range between $350 and $450. They also sell what they call full body suits, but I would describe them as full torso suits with about 3/4 arm coverage. They run about $2,000 and are a bony torso that you can achieve a variety of looks with by simply changing the paint treatment options or adding hair. I'm totally digging the cracked baby mask, which looks quite a bit like Sam from Trick or Treat, and the dark seed mask, which is kind of a rotten pumpkin-headed character. Also check out the apparition mask, which is a skull-faced, shrouded ghostie. The female version is called Entity. The UV paint treatment option would be really cool to give this one that eerie glow. They also have a few half-body suits or front torso coverage suits that run about $500 to $675, and sleeves or gloves from $375 to $600 to complete your monstrous creature characters. Check them out at immortalmasks.com. Limax has released images of some of what their 2020 collection will offer. This year marks the 20th anniversary of Limax Spooky Town, so if you follow them on the social media platforms, you'll see regular updates as they drop news about the collection. Some of my favorite new pieces are the Creatures Custom Hot Rod Shop, the Grimsbury Haunted House, and the Ghoulish Gourd Pub and Grill. That pub would be accessorized perfectly with their new Jolly Jack figures, which are two fellas, one a pumpkin-headed guy and the other a green skeletal undead guy, both brandishing glasses of foaming beer. Kind of reminds me of Baker and JT, actually. They're also adding some super cute black cat crossing signposts. Go take a look at www.limaxcollection.com/villages/spooky-town, or search for Limax Spooky Town on any of the socials. Limax is Leemax. Do you like building with Lego? Definitely take a look at Lego's new haunted house. It's got over 3,200 pieces and is meant for those over 18 due to the difficulty level. The house is called the Manor von Baron and is a spooky haunted house theme park ride. The house opens up so you can see all the cool interior details and has a working elevator lift, free fall ride, automatic opening doors, and a light-up portrait. To make it work, you would need to also purchase the Lego Powered Up components. You control the lights and motion with your smartphone and the Powered Up app. This beauty is 26.5 inches tall and costs $250. Check it out at the LEGO website, which is www.lego.com, and do a search for product number 10273. Or as always, you can get the direct link in the show notes. Hallmark has announced their keepsake ornaments for 2020 on their website, and one new ornament in particular is pretty dang cool. It's the 3 hitchhiking ghosts from Disney's Haunted Mansion. This ornament lights up and plays grim, grinning ghosts. I love it. It's priced at $40 and will be available for purchase on July 11th. Go take a look at Hallmark.com and do a search for Haunted Mansion, or check out the show notes for the link. It's super important, especially right now, that we all support small businesses when we can. And a very cool small business that is chock full of stuff that is of interest to haunters and Halloween lovers is the Mystic Museum. While their Burbank, California shop is closed to visitors right now, they have an awesome online shop that you can hit up. They sell an incredibly wide selection of merch, including t-shirts, pins, candles, spooky home decor, cosmetics, art prints, jewelry, tarot cards, books, bags, wallets, perfume, toys, games, and even some weird and fascinating oddities like animal skulls, antique dolls, and post-mortem photos. Take a gander at their goods at themysticmuseum.com. You can follow them on Facebook, and you can sign up for their newsletter. There's a fun blog I just recently found that I want to recommend. It's called All Hallows Geek. This blog is run by a guy named Mike who created his site for those who love Halloween, horror, and spooky geekdom. He posts very regularly, so there's a real wealth of cool content and news about movies, toys, TV shows, and Johnny Thunder's favorite, and more. Check it out at allhallowsgeek.com. That's ALLHALLOWSGEEK. Ready to make some stuff? Maybe you've always wanted to learn to make your own monster hand gloves. Well, there's a new video from Distortions Unlimited that will help you do just that. That video features Ed Edmonds teaching you how to sculpt monster hands out of clay and is part of the Monster Lab series of instructional videos. There will be more videos to follow that will teach you how to mold and paint your gloves. And I would definitely recommend you check out that Monster Lab playlist of videos. I'll include links in the show notes of both the glove making tutorial as well as to the playlist of all the instructional videos. It's a real treasure trove of information. And make sure you subscribe to Distortions Unlimited on YouTube so you'll be notified when a new video drops. Well, it looks like I've more than used up my allotted time. I hope you enjoyed checking out some of the stuff I've shared with you today. I hope you stay safe and healthy in this crazy time, and come back next time when I'll have collected more goodies to share with you right here in my darkest web.
Hauntcast.
King Prowler.
Every year, tens of millions of people flock to Florida for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. From the UFOs of Gulf Breeze to Robert the Haunted Doll in Key West, learn about the myths, monsters, and legends from the dark side of the Sunshine State with author Mark Muncy and illustrator Carrie Schultz in their books Eerie Florida and Freaky Florida from the History Press. Find them at eerieflorida.com or wherever books are sold.
Maniac who shock women into uncontrolled hysteria, who prey upon the innocence of children.
Shocktails with Johnny Thunder.
I wonder if it isn't all a dream, a nightmare.
He's the silent Bob to my J. It's our master of ceremonies, Johnny Thunder. What's up, Lunchbox?
So you're J, like smoking the J.
Smoochy moochies.
Oh, wait, so I'm the fat one again. Anyway, yeah, what's going on, genius?
I know you're in a hurry tonight, so I won't keep you long. I know that your local salon's back open again and you need to get your hair done, so I get it.
My hairs needs to be did. My hairs and my toes. Actually, they're not open, sadly, but, you know.
The longer this thing goes on, the more I think this thing's just a total, utter scam.
To try to keep you staying inside to listen to back episodes of Hauntcast.
Yeah.
No, hey, you know what? No, dude. I mean, the mask is a plus. I mean, I got that face scarf from Immortal Masks. Do you see that with the big teeth and stuff?
I know, you're gonna be 8 months from now when the masks are no longer required.
I'm just gonna stop. Oh, I don't mind.
You'll be at the local supermarket with the mask on.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I go to the dentist and they're like, "Sir, why are you undressing?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't mind." You know, or I go through the airport security and I just get completely nude. They're like, "Sir, no, you're good." I'm like, No, I don't mind. I'd love to be nude.
With his loose skin and old balls, gross.
Yeah. So I got that cool one from Immortal Mask, and I also ordered just. Have you seen the ones from Jason Baker?
No.
He's SFX. He does special effects with Tom Savini. They just did those sort of half Jason hockey mask ones. So they sculpted this Jason hockey mask, and underneath is the blast reusable mask. So they just did a new one that is in production now, and it's basically a big skull face. So I ordered that one. So it's this big, literally half. I guess it's going to be sort of like a latex cast skull face. So I'm going to walk around with a big giant skull face. Yeah, I was in Walgreens a couple weeks ago, and I walked in. I was a big hit on Mother's Day weekend trying to find a card for my wife. And all these people were just looking at me, and this little 4-year-old girl turns. She's like, "I really like your mask," and I'm like, "Thank you." And her mom grabs her and runs away over to the pantyhose aisle.
Is that when you had the?
Yeah, so I think that every day is how
you had the mask on and candy bars in your hand.
Come over here and I'll give you a treat.
Trying to lure her daughter over.
Yeah, I didn't want to look weird, so I had high heels and a thong too.
I gotta be honest, he's a real dick magnet.
The positive is that we can, as we kind of live Halloween all year round, now we can actually start wearing the masks almost year round.
Right.
So.
Right. As long as you're not COVID-19 positive, there's always a silver lining.
I'm only HIV positive, so it's all right.
Well, you know what? Thank God for that. The good news is, wait, what? So you were out west. You were on a flight with you.
Yeah. Dude, it was the best flight I've ever had in my life. There was about 20 people on the flight. I had the whole row to myself. It was freaking awesome. It was funny because instead of coming down, usually they come down with the cart and they have, the options of some chips or some soda or some beer or whatever. They basically come down the aisle and they just throw a baggie at you with a little water and some chips in it or whatever. They just got to throw it at you and run by. But it was amazing.
That was just you. I've been on flights with you. That's usually how they treat you on flights.
Was just me.
Yeah, I get free drinks. You usually get things thrown at you. So.
No respect.
But best flight ever. Just nobody in my row. I had the whole thing stretched out. And,
what did you do out there? Went and found your spirit animal with peyote?
It was the creepiest thing because not only was the airport empty when I, flying out, but it was so early in the morning, I was kind of like scraping the crust out of my eyes still. When I landed and you get out in Vegas, I've been to the Vegas airport now a couple of times, get there and there's nothing. It's like tumbleweeds rolling through, and it's nobody. It's so apocalyptic. It's crazy. And then going down the strip, I had like a Lyft give me a ride over to the place to pick up the bike, and just going down the strip, and there's just nobody. No cars. It's just completely empty. It's just bizarre. And so it was great, man. I picked up the bike and cruised up to Utah, and coming out of Vegas, it was about 96 degrees. And then, I got up to Utah. It was still in the 80s. Luckily, like, Utah was mostly open. So I was back in it's amazing how good it feels to be back in a restaurant again, sitting at the bar.
Wait, Utah has bars? I thought they were dry. No.
No. They have these weird alcohol laws where the beer can only be like 3.5%. You can't go above that. So
technically that's not beer.
Yeah. So it was basically I had 2 for dinner one night, and I had a pale ale, which usually are like 6% or 8% or whatever. I had a couple, and I'm like, felt nothing. I was like, it was like drinking coffee or something. It was,
so you're like, hey, Toots, the Nia beer.
Is this the O'Douls? What the? I didn't ask for O'Douls.
Yeah, that's pointless.
They have like these weird things, but in general, it was just freaking great because almost everything was open. So I went to Zion, went up to Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef. So I hit most of the state parks that I wanted to see. The only downside is I got out to Moab, and that's where Arches and Canyonland are located, like right on the outskirts of Moab. Moab was freaking cool. I have to go back now because I want to see those parks, but Moab has everything. They have like whitewater rafting, and you could I rented one of those ATVs, those like all-terrain vehicle things, and went down.
Thank you for translating.
I know.
Never heard of ATV.
I'm like, is it a UTV or an ATV? I'm not sure.
No, that's a UTI.
That's
what
no. Which I might have contracted somewhere along the path. It went down into the through these mesas and up on the top of a mesa. It was just badass. It was.
So it was like Close Encounter stuff.
It's just, man, the scenery is just unbelievable. It's just
cool.
Like there's just amazing, like picturesque landscapes, like one after another. It's really a beautiful, beautiful to get out there and just cruise around and kind of like tune all this bullshit off for at least a week.
Right.
Super cool, man. What did you do while I was away for the last?
Oh, I just counted the days until you came back. That's what I usually do.
All right,
just counting down the days.
I'm here now, so everything's good.
Oh, woo!
I know.
Load off my mind. What have I been doing? Oh, I've been working and raising my daughter.
And your business
taking care of my house.
And your business completely turned around now because everybody's going bankrupt and getting out of work.
Well, that's a problem. Yeah, no, like I said, my wife and I have just been still working from home for now, and our daughter actually, she's done school. I think it's next week. By the time this airs, I think she'll be done school by the time this airs. So, I mean, but like I said last time, it's funny that I noticed that my life really hasn't changed in this whole lockdown thing because I realize I don't really want to go anywhere.
This is your normal state. You never really leave the house anyway.
Well, like I said last time, fat asses for safety, so. I'm good. I'm good reading a book. I'm good drawing. I'm good, hanging out, listening to music, watching movies, just sitting in the yard playing with the dog. And I was like, I don't know. Everybody's bitching and moaning. They want to go here. They want to go here. I'm like, I really haven't noticed
like
much of a difference. Yeah. Besides not commuting 2 hours a day in the Jeep, I don't know. Dude, I haven't gotten gas. I realize this. I just said this. What are we now? It's like the end of May. I have not gotten gas since mid-March in the Jeep.
And gas is like under $2 a gallon. I've seen the gas prices lower.
It's crazy. I'm finally going to have to get gas because I've been going out and getting beer. But like I said, otherwise, it is what it is. And it's nice now that finally, summer's sort of here. So after I log off from work, I can go outside and hang out. But that's pretty much it. So here we are. This is our, summer spooktacular.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and Hauntcast and whatnot and mayhem and nonsense and foolishness. So what do you think? Do you, speaking of the nonsense going on, like Pennsylvania now is, we're moving into the yellow phase as of next week, and miraculously the virus knows, well, miraculously the virus knows to go away because now miraculously the Delaware and Jersey shores have opened. Coincidentally, just in time for Memorial Day weekend in the summer. It's amazing. But so people have asked me, and I'm sort of, not that it's my opinion, just based on how things go. Like, do you think that haunted attractions will be opening this September, October? Do you think, escape rooms will be opening? Will we have trick or treat? I mean, what do you think?
I don't know, man. I don't see how it would. Plus, I have a feeling that over the next number of months, as more data comes out, I think we're going to find that this thing isn't as bad as they were originally. The doomsday claims and all the foolish fear clickbait nonsense that you see everywhere. I don't really think that this thing is as bad as it was originally predicted.
No, but that aside, I guess what I'm saying is based on how the governments have reacted, I don't know, because like I said, for example, in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Delaware, I think like Delaware as of next week, and I know Jersey, and I think Pennsylvania going into the yellow phase, it's sort of restaurants can start opening, but 30% capacity, separation, masks. Even at the shores, it's still encouraged. The beaches can be open, but limited capacity, 6 feet away. I guess what I'm saying is like, think about your typical haunts, I do line and crowd entertainment. So, you think to yourself, well, you're usually like shoulder to shoulder, right up close. If this sort of carries through the fall, the winter, or even just the idea of let's avoid lawsuits, or maybe we want to encourage people to come out, even if we're allowed to be open. We want to make people feel that they can come out. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how you would, besides, time tickets, if you're an outside event, but even then you'd have to have the lines maybe separated, and 6 feet away. And then if you do a hayride, you put people on the hayride and you have to separate them, you're doing less capacity, walking through a walkthrough, say a haunted house or a corn maze or, anything else.
I mean, put it this way. I have a feeling.
Should or shouldn't.
Yeah, the haunt owners may have to, that they might decide to make certain adjustments, whether they'll be mandatory, whether they actually will have to be, as decreed by the governors or what have you.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that I think most people, and I've been talking to a lot of people who come into my shop, and most people are saying the same thing to me. This is bullshit. I'm sick of this shit. Like, I think people just don't even care anymore. I think like the general population just is like, I don't give a shit. Like, let me get it, and I'll just, I'll be sick for a week or whatever, and I'll get over it, and I'll be fine. Because most people, this doesn't kill them. I think business starts to rebound, and I think we're going to be fine by the time the fall hits, unless there's some kind of major uptick. But I don't even see that happening. I doubt it. I think we're going to be business as normal by the time September, October rolls.
But if that's what I was going to say. But if it's sort of like the way it is now, and it's sort of you can go out, but be careful, do this, do that, don't do this, do that. I would even say, like, let's just do our home haunts, trick or treat night, in which again everybody's like, it's a Saturday for the first time.
I know.
The Saturday, it's a full moon, it's this and that. I would think, again, if things are the way they are now, maybe a downtick in trick-or-treaters, or will you make up a candy bag, and not give loose? I'm just trying to think ahead. That's all.
I was thinking more on the pro side of things. As far as home haunters,
me too,
I think everybody's
both.
going to do their thing. Whether kids come out, the numbers are going to be less, possibly, but it is Saturday, so...
All right, let's get right to it, everybody.
Well, thanks,
Hey! Welcome back to the last bar on the left. We're giving... we're still in the yellow, so we're still... am I in yellow or red? No, I moved to yellow next week, so I guess I'm still doing takeout drinks because our governor allowed that. But anyway... Here I am at the last bar on the left.
Where you stick the straw into your little face mask? Did you cut a little hole?
Yeah, it's the glory hole. It's the same size. The straw's the same size as my junk, so it works out well.
It's just, oddly enough, it's just big enough to fit my penis in there.
I try to get an erection and nothing happens. All right, everybody, welcome back. Here we are once again. The frivolity never ends. On my side of the bar, I am drinking 2SP Baby Bob. And now, Genius, are you drinking anything or smoking anything?
Yeah. Everything's legal out here now in Massachusetts. We've got both my favorite pastimes are legal. Let's see. We've got my sponsor.
Wait.
I have a sponsor. That's right. I did procure one. Yeah, it's a little blast from the past. It's not wine. And it's not cool. Bartles and James wine coolers. This is what you get when you mix industrial white wine, fizzy water, and artificial flavors. It's a drink that was made famous by To Catch a Predator, as this was every creepy pedophile's preferred beverage of choice to lure children into their homes. Bartles and James wine coolers.
It's funny, I'm taking that same shit to avoid the COVID.
I think that will prevent the kung flu.
I read about it on Twitter. It must be true.
By the way, thank you for your support.
He's also got a pack of condoms in his backpack.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
This time around, just got a bunch of movie reviews. As I said, I live a very rewarding life in lockdown, so we're just going to cover a bunch of movies. And you know what's funny about this? I think it's 6 movies, right? And what's funny was after I started breaking down what I reviewed, it ends up that I watched 2 witch movies, 2 monster movies, and 2 home invasion movies. Now, again, there's no thought process on my end whatsoever about this show. I wish I could say, I actually thought about this, but I did not. So, coming up, I have reviews of The Candy Witch, Rootwood, Don't Run, Dead by Dawn, Cry for the Bad Man, but first we're going to start with a review of The Wretched.
Dad, Mom's being weird.
Mom's always been weird. What are you doing up here?
Dylan! Don't let her in.
My son likes to play hide and seek. Can you bring him down?
I didn't say he was here.
You're a very stupid boy.
Can I help you? You still at home?
Dylan, down here, baby.
You know, your son Dylan? I don't have a son. He had no idea who I was talking about.
Listen to Mommy. Daddy, Dylan.
He's gone. I know it. I'd like to report a missing kid.
Are you okay, Ethan?
Where is your sister?
I need you to tell me what's going on. Ben!
Now, The Wretched is a movie from IFC Midnight, and it's actually, you know what's funny about this? And this is kind of a cool side effect of this whole current plague society. Drive-ins are making a comeback.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack.
Yeah, because, I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania, and we have the Mahoning Valley Drive-In that's been around for, forever. And in the past few years, of course, after I moved away, they've started doing some genre film festivals. So they do like a zombie weekend, they do horror weekends and stuff. And so one thing about this whole social distancing and the fact that mainstream theaters are closed is that the existing drive-ins are actually seeing an uptick in not only original programming, but also attendance. So smartly, IFC released this new movie called The Wretched to drive-ins. And because there is really no box office right now, The Wretched is number one at the box office. It made, and nice. It's hilarious because I think it made like $180,000, like 36 drive-ins or something. But it's kind of cool, and I actually would love to see more and more drive-ins come back because that's actually a very cool experience. I mean, you remember these as a kid. You'd go and you'd sit there, and it's actually a fun thing. So I'm hoping
the drive-ins were the freaking best thing, and it was so sad to see them go down. I get it.
Right.
I understand what happened there, but especially up north. I mean, down south,
Sure.
But up here, you're dealing with a very short season. But when I was flying out to Vegas, I actually go to this thing called the Logan Express, and it's basically like a hub. The buses, you leave your car there. It's a lot cheaper than parking at the airport. The bus, it's only a half-hour bus ride right through, drops you off at the airport, and the whole area where all the parking was the old Braintree Twin Cinema. It was like the Twin Drive-In. They still have the drive-in screen there. It hasn't fallen over yet. Like one, nice. I think, collapsed, but one's still there, so you can still see the old screen.
Nice.
But it's that and I was thinking about it when I was there, and I'm like, man, I used to love coming here as a kid. We'd go in with the station wagon. We'd take our sleeping bags up on the roof and watch the movies up there, and it was, especially for us who lived in the ghetto, it was like a good little break away from everything. And we'd go early and then go to the little playground up front and spin around on that little death trap and go fly, that thing, run to see how fast you can go, and then you go flying off.
Yeah.
Skin your knee open, you get up, laugh, and go back and watch the movie. Yeah, no, that's awesome because we do have also one here on the Cape that still exists, and they're open every summer. So
okay.
Anyway, I'm talking too much. Go ahead.
I
don't want to make you late for a salon appointment. I understand. Tell me
I said, my back hair has gotten crazy. I really, really need a perm and highlights. So The Wretched is it's a new flick about this defiant teenage boy struggling with his. I just love these descriptions. Defiant teenage boy struggling with his parents' imminent divorce faces off with a 1,000-year-old witch. Yikes! Who is living beneath the skin of and posing as the woman next door. So, out of all the movies I watched that we're going to talk about this month, I would say this has the biggest budget, probably the best sort of acted, and is the most competent film that is in our reviews this month. Now, here's the thing about this. It's competently directed, competently, for the most part, acted. There's a couple scares here and there, but my problem with it is pretty much, if you can hear my voice already, it's okay. It's just sort of so-so. There's a lot of elements which I was struck by. You've got the whole teenage drama sort of setup. There's a whole element, obviously, with this monster living next door. Immediately, what comes to mind is Fright Night, or even Rear Window, the Jimmy Stewart flick. So, there was nothing wrong with it. You've got some scares. There's the typical story. There's this twist at the end and so forth. But my problem with it was just mediocre, in my opinion. I didn't have a big problem with it, but by the same token, nothing about it really jumped out at me as being super original or super engaging. And from the movie poster, you have the witch with this like big deer skeleton head with the antlers and the rack. So you've got that, and that's kind of creepy. But it really kind of wants to play off of, like I said, it's sort of this uneasy balance between this teen angst kind of romance, fun summer working at the marina on the beach and the boats and like the girls in the bikinis, and then you've got this witch next door, I guess, and it's fine. It didn't piss me off, but by the same token, there wasn't anything that really made me go like, hey, wow, you really, really got to watch this. So if you're into sort of an 80s teen vibe with a witch, knock yourselves out.
It's all for you.
It's all on you. Yeah. So go to the drive-in.
Was this the best that you've? And this was the best movie you've seen out of the 6, I take it, right? Sorta, kinda. No. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, see, that's that's even what I said to you before. My problem was, it's kind of fun if there's something that I watch that really turns me on, and I want to like say, hey, wow, this is awesome. Yeah, exactly. Or if there's something that's so super shitacular that I can really get excited about. I guess all of these in their own way really don't piss me off and don't excite me. So, each of them have positive and negatives. And again, at the end of the day, what I've been saying for a while now is I'm not making movies. I'm not in movies. Nobody's looking for me. Nobody's greenlighting any of my projects. So, at least they got, something going on. Like I said, I'm sitting in the yard with the dog.
Shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut
Who the hell am I? Big loud mouth. Big fat. So anyway, all right. So now we go from the wretched with the 1,000-year-old witch. Now let's get to the candy witch.
God!
I saw her. The candy witch.
What relevance does she have with this house?
She was our nanny.
She was abusing their children.
Ghostbusters are here.
The gift Reese has, it's real.
So he speaks to dead people?
He can see them. And we help them move on.
Something's definitely here.
Yeah, it's Candy Witch. This just came out June 9th on DVD and digital from Uncorked Entertainment. 2 ghost hunters are called upon by a distressed family who claim they are being tormented by an evil spirit known as the Candy Witch. But as the mystery of her curse is uncovered, surprising and sinister turns are discovered around the Candy Witch's identity. This is their hardest case yet, and can they possibly solve this evil curse before more people are killed by the demonic spirit? Ooh, scary. So this again is sort of on the level of a lot of movies that I've been reviewing for a while because, well, they're free screeners. This again, I think it's set in England, but it might not be because a lot of the actors are British, but they're doing American accents. So there's the one lady who, remember the movie Cupid? I think I reviewed that last time. She was like one of the schoolmasters with the blonde hair, and she would kind of go in and out of this American and British accent, which was kind of weird, but it was fine because I like the kills. This is a very similar movie. So the whole idea of like this, like husband and wife that are these, paranormal investigators are called by this family who are being tormented by this Candy Witch. It really is just sort of this premise to set up these kind of cool kills, just like that movie Cupid that we talked about. So you've got the Candy Witch, and Candy Witch is sort of this older woman, and she's just sort of like your typical hag witch character. So she's got like sort of the green face and, the nose and the warts and everything else. But what's fun is with Candy Witch, Chris, how do you think Candy Witch kills people? See, there's a test.
With her shoe?
No. Try again. Candy.
With her pointy hat.
Candy witch. Candy witch.
Candy witch.
Candy?
With candy?
Yes! You get a participation prize. So
a little star for my forehead.
Exactly. Up with downs. So what happens is, what's kind of cool about it is like basically you've got this like ghost witch lady just pops up and starts killing people with candy. So the one kill is she takes a lady, again, for some reason this lady's making like chocolate fondue. So she's got this big pot of melted chocolate. So she grabs the lady's face and like throws the lady's face in the chocolate. So not only does she drown, but the lady's face burns off from the chocolate candy. Then you have death by candy cane, severed penis by candy cane, strangulation by black licorice ropes. That's a lot of fun. Disembowelment with the candy cane and then stuffed with butterscotch candy, so that's fun too. So it's kind of they kind of mix up the paranormal, possessed ghost house with witch and murders, and some of the effects are practical, which are fun. So overall, again, it's nothing really that elevates above your typical sort of hour 15 sort of sci-fi kind of vibe film, but the kills are fun and it's a fun character. I even watched that again and I go, oh, if you kind of want to do this sort of weird candy witch character for Halloween in your haunt, it might be a cool idea. Yeah, so
Does she have a free candy van?
No, she doesn't want to steal your vibe, so she knows that's your thing.
You dirty bird.
What else do we got?
All right, so let's move on to, I don't know, do you want to do the 2 home invasion movies next? And both of which coincidentally star people who have been in I Spit on Your Grave films. Isn't that interesting? Again, another
the remakes or the original?
Well, I'm going to tickle your ass with a feather and say both. How about that? Wow. Yeah. Or do you want to do the monster movies? Do you want to do
save those to the end. We'll do the...
Oh, wait. Let me guess. You watched one of those?
I actually might have watched one. I'm not going to tell you which one.
I'm going to go with the one that I said is only an hour long, about a kid with a monster in his closet, because we all know that you have a monster in your closet all these years.
I got a lot of skeletons in there, that's for sure.
Oh, skeletons and dildos. But, all right, so we're going to go to the home invasion movies?
Excuse me.
Should we do those? Should we do the home invasion?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so there's 2 movies this month. The first is called Dead by Dawn.
Hey, look, I'm going to call the police. You just have to tell me what happened.
They.
I once was a girl with eyes of dream. I cut her throat to stop her scream.
I'm gonna do what I can to get you back to your family.
There's not much more of that.
Pain of little death it begs, lets the monsters out to play.
Just let the girl go. Give her to us.
You might as well go crazy, right? Might as well go all out.
You have to invite them in.
Then you all die here!
What are we gonna do?
I'm trying not to faint.
No one gets out!
So in this movie, a suicidal man in his remote cabin is suddenly faced with protecting a kidnapped woman from 3 killers and their sadistic games. Unable to contact the outside world with night falling, he falls back on creating traps to prevent criminals from gaining entry. It's a fight to the death where only the strongest will survive until dawn. So this one, I can basically tell you, is funny games plus The Strangers with a twist of Home Alone. And you end up with, okay. it's basically, like I said, starts off with this young woman who's going to a Halloween party, gets picked up in an Uber or something by this dude dressed up as a clown, and he's immediately sort of like Uncle Bad Touch, and you're like, I would just jump out the window and not be in the car ride with this guy. So then you cut to this mountain scene where there's this guy who's about to kill himself because his wife and daughter are dead. She shows up at his door crying, and then all hell breaks loose where it's this creepy clown who's no longer a clown, which I would have recommended he stayed dressed as a clown for the movie, an older guy, and Jamie Bernadette, who is the psycho clown's girlfriend. And basically you end up with this whole sort of weird home invasion where the three killers want to get the girl, but the dude who owns the cabin tries to protect them, and it turns out that the dude who owns the cabin had a wife and daughter who died, but the daughter was obsessed with the zombie apocalypse. So just coincidentally, she created a whole set and room of traps and funny traps and weapons to kill zombies. So literally at one point in the movie, it's like the dude's like running around like setting up like Kevin did in Home Alone, like sort of this like, I'm going to put this like rake by the door and it'll hit the guy in the face, and, you know, broken glass under the window and all this other kind of crazy bullshit. So I had to laugh because I'm like, this just took like a weird Home Alone turn. It's fine. You know, again, it's nothing groundbreaking. The acting is okay. There were some cool practical effects. There's an eye gouged out. There's some stabbings. There's a hand cut off, stuff like that. Arrow through the chest, I think. I'm trying to think of all the other maiming. Getting run over by a car. Having your other eye stabbed out. So stuff like that. So, again, I wouldn't pay for it, but if you see it on somewhere for free, you know, check it out. Why not?
What else do you got going on?
What else do I got going for me? Cry for the Bad Man, starring I Spit on Your Grave, a.k.a. Day of the Woman's Camille Keaton.
I know you miss Daddy, but he ain't here to protect you.
Evening, Mrs. Kane. You come out, or you come in. I understand our old man's lawyer gave you a more than fair offer on this place.
I ain't selling.
There's a contract. My brother'll be back tomorrow night to collect it.
I was all real sorry to hear about your husband's passing. Word around town is that Bill Sr. done made an offer on this place. Take it.
These boys are not taking no for an answer. This is serious.
God doesn't give us what we can't handle.
But I ain't here to pray.
How long you think this is going to last?
Long as it needs to.
This is about a small town widow who is grieving about her dead husband when she receives a deadly ultimatum from the privileged sons of a local land developer who want her to sell her beloved property. She's only given 24 hours to decide. And when her pleas to the town's corrupt sheriff fall on deaf ears, she realizes she must take matters into her own hands. So her quest for justice turns into an all-out battle with a final grisly confrontation. Now, what's nice about this is, again, you get to see Camille Keaton back in action. And I think it's, again, only about a little over an hour or so. She's holed up in this country sort of farmhouse. Her daughter shows up. These three bad dudes want to break in and basically kill her because she doesn't want to sign the deed over to their evil landlord, Baron father. So it's basically a lot of shooting, a lot of killing. Hands are cut off. People are shot. People are, maimed. All this kind of craziness goes on. I will say there was one brother, and I don't know his name, but if you watch this movie, he's kind of the bigger dude with a beard. And he's actually really funny, and he gives like a really, really good performance, because there's a lot of times where there's this sort of like serious situation going on in the foreground where the older brother has the daughter with a knife and he's threatening the mother and the daughter, and the dude is in the background trying to like get out of his shirt even though he's handcuffed and he lost a hand, and he's doing like a lot of like kind of physical comedy and stuff. So he actually made me laugh, and I should have looked up his name because it was kind of funny. But otherwise, you know, it's sort of a routine defending the home front from these invaders, home invasion. If you're a fan of Camille Keaton, check it out. Otherwise, again, nothing really groundbreaking. Again, more along the lines of a thriller, maybe a suspense film. But given the heritage of Camille Keaton and given sort of some of the violence in the movie, kind of falls in the exploitation horror realm. So that is Cry for the Bad Man. So now before we move on to the two monster movies, one is called Rootwood and one is called Don't Run. Let me know which one you saw.
Let's end with Don't Run.
I knew it. All right.
Because I saw the other one. No.
All right, so Rootwood.
Welcome to the Spooky Hour, your podcast about paranormal phenomena and spooky legends worldwide.
2 weeks ago, I received this exciting email from a Hollywood producer, but she asked us if we wanted to take part in the physical production of the documentary on this legend that's circulating Hollywood.
Right this way.
I want to produce a documentary about the curse of the Wooden Devil.
We've finally reached our destination after 4 hours of driving.
I'm here in Rootwood Forest with Aaron, Jess, and myself.
So the first person that was rumored to have gone missing in this forest was a little girl and her dog. And they found her hanging. They said it was the Wooden Devil and convinced her to hang herself.
All right, let's get to it.
I can't
Do you
wait
want to
for
read
this
the
one.
description or should I read it? All right, so, hey, but dude, I thought about us because I think we missed our chance to be in a movie or make a movie about ourselves, right? So the movie is about two college students. I mean, you and I look young enough to be 21 going on 60. So two college students who host The Spooky Hour, a podcast about paranormal phenomena and urban legends. They get hired by a Hollywood film producer who was played by Felissa Rose, which was actually nice to see her in this. So, you know who Felissa Rose is, right, Chris?
Who's she?
Dude, Sleepaway Camp.
But of course, yes.
Oh my God. Come on,
so
dude.
stupid
She's
now.
awesome. Yeah, you are stupid. So anyway, they're hired by this Hollywood film producer to shoot a horror documentary about the curse of the Wooden Devil. They smell their chance to become famous. Again, it's just like our life story, dude. Together with another friend, maybe PJ Revenant, they enter Rootwood Forest and investigate the area to find out the truth about the Wooden Devil and its victims. Sounds exciting, doesn't it?
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
It's basically, I don't know what.
I don't know. You saw it. I didn't.
Come on. You know where I'm going with this, don't you?
So, I'm not sure.
It's Blair Witch.
Oh.
Found footage.
Oh, it's a found footage flick.
Well, it's partly found footage because the podcasters who are making the movie
must be douchebags. Podcasters, for Christ's
actually,
sake.
dude, they're
like the lowest of the low.
You suck. The podcasters who are making the movie take their video cameras out into the woods with their camper. So it's part found footage, but then it's also, you also have scenes filmed basically from, the film perspective. So while you'll have found footage in the film, you'll also have scenes of the camera watching the characters film their found footage, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's basically a play on Blair Witch. Again, this wasn't offensive. I actually wasn't mad about this. I will say, seeing Felissa Rose, she's in the beginning and she's at the end. She's always cool to see. The lead actor, and again, his response to me would be like, dude, what have you done? And I'd go, well, exactly. He's really stiff, really kind of mushmouth, like not believable. The lead actress I thought was engaging. She was fine. But, you know, it suffers from the old tropes of we're going to go out, we're not believing it's day one, it's day two, we're documenting it with found footage, and now here's, you know, another perspective from the camera. It was fine, you know, and then again, there's a big twist, and then there's another twist, and by the end of it, again, just like I had said about The Wretched, I just felt just kind of, I've seen this before, nothing really new. And that's fine in certain cases, you know, I said that before. You know, there's things you see and you go, it's fine. You know, it didn't piss me off, but it wasn't exactly entertaining. I wasn't mad that I watched it again. It was free. It's about an hour 20.
Let's bring it home with Don't Run.
Hey, Pete. You want to go across the street with me? I thought it might be kind of fun to meet the neighbors.
You just move in? We've got this neighborhood ritual here.
Just not the way to handle your problems.
Hey, I'm Amy.
You think I'm some dorky loser like everybody else?
Just a ritual.
Stop it!
Stop it. God, wouldn't listen to him.
Stop it!
Hello, Peter. I want to talk to you.
It wasn't his mother's will that you be his care provider should something happen to her.
Listen to me very carefully.
Hey, do you need any help?
My associate is going to stay with you. He is the one in your closet upstairs.
Something in there?
We have some questions we'd like to ask you.
If you are not in bed by sundown, he is going to get you. You may not always see us, but we're always here. We're always listening. We're always watching.
Is everything alright? It's just that I saw another police car in your driveway.
A boy named Derek Crothers went missing. This house was the last place he was seen.
Whatever you do, wherever you go, don't run from your demons, for always they'll know.
Short version is a timid boy is trapped in his house with a monster that will eat him if he isn't in bed every night by sundown. I mean, that's pretty much the summary, right?
Yeah.
All right, so...
Short form, sure.
Yeah, so little boy moves with his mother to a new house, to a new town, to a new strange house. He's unpacking. He's got his dog as his only friend, kind of socially awkward, kind of a nerd, maybe on the spectrum, not sure what's going on with him. He is on medication. That's a point which becomes kind of key at one, turn in the story. And then we go through a lot of improbable situations where he's seemingly home alone with no guidance or parents or anything for a while. And it's kind of what I said. It's a 15-year-old boy in this house with a dog, and there's a monster who lives in his closet. And if he's not in bed every night, it will kill him. So I think the easiest way to describe this is it's kind of it's only a little over an hour. And I think it's a long form episode of Tales from the Dark Side or Goosebumps or Night Gallery or something. And I remember actually specifically as a kid, and I want to say it was Tales from the Dark Side, there was a story about a little boy who lived in a house, and there was a shadow person who either lived under his bed or lived in his closet. And one night the shadow man came up on his wall and said, as long as you are in your bed every night before I come out or come home, you will be safe. But if you leave your house, and if I don't see you in bed or I see you outside the house, I will kill you. Otherwise, I'll kill everybody else. So that was immediately what I thought about in this movie. So this is a expanded version of a short film made by, I think he's like the writer, director, producer. And we've talked about low budget on some of these other films. This is literally like the lowest of the low budget. It's currently actually playing on Amazon Prime, so if anybody wants to check this out, I got a screener, but it's also on Prime. Given the limitations of the budget, given the familiarity of the story, acting abilities are limited, the budget is rather limited, effects are limited. But like I said, if you kind of just take it as, like I said, a segment in an anthology or an episode of, a short horror show, it was fine. I wasn't mad. I wasn't overly impressed. But, again, it's the big twist ending with another twist ending. But it's basically, it is what it is. Like I said, it's a teenage boy, teenage girl next door. He's bullied. There's a mom who disappears. Then there's an aunt who is there, but she's not there. There's cops. There's social services. And then there's a twist. And you go, oh, okay. So I watched it on a Saturday morning in bed with my dog, drinking some coffee. And I was like, it was fine.
What did Daisy think?
Daisy rolled over and farted in my face. That's pretty much what she thought.
I farted in your general direction. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. Let's say it went by so fast, and like I say, I did feel like a goosebumps. It had the goosebump vibe or something, and it was all right. Yeah, the acting was kind of weak. There was a really lack of tension. Like there should have been a lot more tension. It was no Babadook, I'll tell you that. There was no friggin' Babadook.
Sure.
But overall, like I say, it went by so fast by the time it was over, and I'm like, yeah, that was all right.
That's what I mean. Like I said, if you have an hour to kill,
Peter wasn't that likable, but I don't know that he was supposed to be because he was really kind of like a nerd little beta kid. It's funny in today's day and age. I don't even know if bullies even exist anymore. They hammer kids in school. No bullies. They have this whole anti-bully campaign, and they have to sign no bully contracts in school and all this shit. I'm like, they always act like these kids from the 70s and 80s still exist. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. But they still always have that bully trope with these kids, and kids giving them shit, and then he needs the kid to be alive because he doesn't want the thing to come after him, which I thought that was kind of cool. He's like, no, dude, I'm bringing you food because I don't want him coming after me. You got to stay alive, man.
Without giving away the ending, you're kind of going through the whole thing like, oh, wait, the social services person disappears. Then the aunt disappears. Then the cops are there, but then they disappear. Then the kids disappear. Then it's, you're sort of like, and then you're like, oh, okay, you kind of get it. And, it's also, you might look back and, maybe this guy ends up, getting bigger projects, getting bigger funded projects. And you look back and you go, this is how he started, So, like I said, if you have an hour to kill, I would check it out. Like I said, I wouldn't expect anything more than just, even, if you go to, say, like a local film festival or something like that. But yeah, it was fine.
All right. So we have a lot of meh and fine and didn't suck movies.
Dude, that's what I was texting you last night. It was sort of like, I just can't work up a lot of piss and vinegar these days, But in any event, I want to give a shout out. One of the shout outs I forgot to give out, Dead Rabbit Studios. Dude, I got a new weapon for my Mr. Twisty character.
Yeah,
because
again,
this Halloween, I want to bring back my ice cream dude, and it's this awesome baseball bat. Because remember, we saw them at Transworld a couple of years ago, and it's this awesome baseball bat, but it's sort of like the cone coloration with the dripping ice cream on the top. And I was so psyched because there's really a dearth of ice cream related murder weapons, believe it or not. So I was very excited to see that. So I'm trying to upgrade the costume this year. And hoping to do some other things for the yard if we have it. If not, I'll just do some sexy boudoir Mr. Twisty photos, and I'll be sure to post those in the Hauntcast Minions group on Facebook.
You old rascal.
All right, dude. Well, it's good talking to you. Don't be a stranger.
All right, man. Hey, and by the way, I'm warning you up, threatening you up front. I am, as long as the baits goes off, with a normal schedule, I do plan coming down there on opening weekend. I'm coming down to the Bates this year as long as you guys are open.
So did I tell you I have a bike trip through Utah planned?
Well, I guess I'll just have to go down and, see Sean or whatever.
All right. Hey, everybody. As always, Chris, again, good talking to you, everybody. Thank you for listening, as always. And I want to give a big scream out to Calabrese. Thank you for letting us play some tracks from your latest album, Flee the Light. And Chris and everybody else out there, be well, be safe, and stay scary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Stay scary.
Welcome, Haunters. I'm your host, Ed Gannon, professional haunter, Something Wicked Productions, Wicked Amusements, and Haunt Dogs. And in this episode of Something Wicked, we'll talk about creating and using haunt models. They're more valuable than you know. In past segments, you've heard me talking about building a model of your haunted attraction with a blueprint. And those are incredibly helpful, and I encourage you to make those from every level, no matter whether you have a home haunt or a huge professional attraction. And I'll touch back on those in a few, but by no means are those the only haunt models you might want to look into. For example, this year's Transworld Haunt Show had me doing a seminar on building 4 haunt models, and you got to take them home with you. These were of haunt mechanisms, and using the model, it's easy to make a life-size version. All of the difficulties have been worked out in the model, and it's easy to see how everything works. You just need to scale it up.
Big.
The great thing is, you can make these as big or as small as you need them. Need a giant moving monster puppet like I used to do for Dark Hour down in Dallas? No problem. Need something a little smaller to pop out of a closet like my buddy Tim has at Fright Kingdom in Nashville, New Hampshire? No problem. The best thing about these is they are customized to your attraction, and if this is important to you, no one else will have the same one, so keep that in mind. Let's go over the types of models that we might want to utilize in haunting one at a time. Number 1, of course, is a model of your actual attraction. Using a blueprint and taking measurements of your show space or house or whatever, and then adding in the elements of the haunt creates a visual overview of what you're actually dealing with for the season. Not to mention, it's a great way to keep track of scares, actors, all those things from season to season. My buddy John LaFlamboy of Hell's Gate Haunted House near Chicago created his haunt model out of Legos, which is actually brilliant, and years later still looks great, fun to build, and allows for quick updates and changes to the show. Eric Lothar up at Haunted Overload in New Hampshire starts every giant structure he builds with a wooden frame model to see where each and every pole will be placed, some of which are over 20 feet tall. One thing I'll mention and always bring up when people ask me about creating maps, blueprints, or models of a building or attraction is be sure to get accurate measurements when creating your initial footprint. This means if your attraction is in a building, get all initial measurements accurate down to the inch. Be sure to include obstacles that are immovable like center beams, air ducts, staircases, or any impediment which is not an open walking space. Include any obstruction that may be in the way of your show, walls, or elements. I usually work from one corner of the building or property and measure all distances, obstructions, etc. from there. That way, I have less chance of the blueprint or map folding in on its own measurements. Believe it or not, most structures are not square. Next, I input all those walls into a home CAD program, which you can get anywhere. I use these instead of SketchUp, for example, because it gives you measurements as you draw. It's easy, snaps the walls into 5-degree angles, and with a button you can pull it up into a 3D version. Voila, haunt map. But you should use any program you feel most comfortable with. Most architectural models like this, you will see, are on a scale of 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. This means your 8-foot high walls will be 4 inches high on your model. This size makes it easy to put in working scares, secret doors, and figures as well. Then the fun part. Hey! Start including decor, scares, where actors will be and places for them to hide if necessary. This part can be as specific or as abstract as you like. If possible, I personally like to print out wall coverings and artistic elements on paper, then spray glue them onto the walls of the model so it's as accurate as possible. This eliminates miscommunication, especially if you're not the only one bringing this vision to life. A picture or a model speaks 1,000 words and avoids many disagreements. I covered how to make these architectural models in another segment, but if you have any questions, just send me an email. I'll be happy to help. The hidden value of an attraction model is for people who may not be able to see your vision without something to physically view. These can be invaluable. Not only because you have a year-round representation of your attraction, but questions can be answered you may not expect. Security issues? Check. Design concerns? Check. Actor placements? Check. And sponsors can see exactly what you have to offer without leaving their office. Big check. A second type of model you might want to use is one of haunt mechanisms. These may include a mechanical scare, drop-down mechanism, a giant puppet rig, or a motorized element. Once you figure out how to make it work on the small scale, creating a larger version is so much easier. I designed a reverse axe-worthy ghost mechanism that can hold 5 pounds instead of the 5 ounces the original type commonly holds. This effect could be huge, but the logistics have always been difficult. For those who may not know, this is a cable strung between 2 or more bicycle tire rims on supports and several mechanisms, one of which contains a motor that turns the wheel. This makes your ghost or whatever that hangs from the cable fly through the course you set up with the tire rims. The workings are all above the heads of guests and out of sight. The effect is a ghost which appears to float with no mode of locomotion that can move as slow or as fast as your motor. Very cool. Believe me, creating a model of these types of mechanisms ahead of time can save you days of work and mountains of frustration. I usually start off with some kind of model when designing a new mechanism. First, of course, I draw out the idea. This drawing may take on several versions while working out how to do it most effectively, sometimes many versions. Like many of you, I'm a visual person, so the stick drawing or rough architectural drawing is where I solve most of the problems that come with bringing something into the physical world from an idea. Even on paper, most of us can see, oh, this angle won't work here, or hey, I'm going to need some more support on this. But others are going to need to make something physical to see and figure those problems out. Once I have an idea I think will work, I'll do a wireframe rough concept model or popsicle stick device to see how it will operate. This is a great place to see, do I need to move a bolt for the pivot point closer or farther away? Is the motion arm too long or too short? I usually drill holes in the popsicle stick with a 1/16 inch drill bit and put thumbtacks through them for the bolts. This allows me to re-drill and move the angles easily to see where they will function the best. Once you have the motion you want in the model, you can usually also see what you will need to make it operate. Maybe a motor, or an air cylinder, or an actor with a crank or rope. The purpose of these models is to solve big problems of design and construction on a small scale. This allows a smaller budget and time savings during development. The second time you make something, it always goes faster and easier, right? Make that first attempt a model instead of the final product. You'll be glad you did. What's the hidden value of a mechanism model? The most obvious value is saving time and money. But perhaps the best benefit is being able to point to the model and saying, I want to make 5 of these mechanisms and other people can see exactly how that's done and help make that happen. A third type of model may be a prop or costume. With broad strokes, draw your idea first. Even if you just use paper cutouts to see how things would look and move before you make an actual model, this can help you get your look down. How do you think paper dolls were invented in the first place? That's right, as a design tool. Let's say you wanted to create a new character with some custom props. For visualization's sake, let's say it's a huge ogre with a giant axe. He or she may have a belt with all kinds of tools and trophies on it, like the Predator, for example. Human skull, bottles of potions, sheathed knives, etc. You get the idea. Already, you can get a sense of what this character would look like. Taking an action figure and making the clothes, tools, belts, and giant axe can bring it into focus and solve some logistical problems before you even touch a piece of fabric or sheet of foam. You can, using clay for example, sculpt the mask, head, body to be exactly what you envisioned. How much you add in clay to the body costume is directly proportionate to the padding you will need to include in the final product. Does it need stilts? You can include that too. Making the axe is a similar process. Is it balanced? What understructure will it require so it doesn't fold over like a piece of cardboard? Does it need wood in there? Metal? Is it too heavy to actually hold? Does the character have to hold it all the time, or can you create some kind of back harness that will allow the actor to have their hands free? These are all problems you may be able to work out ahead of time. This prevents you from having to rebuild your design several times or fix it because some elements just won't work in a real haunt situation. It also means it may take less time to create the physical costume since you've already made most of the building decisions. The hidden value of a prop costume model is not only is it easier to recreate, but seeing it finished also really gives you a feel for how the character may move, talk, or even what it might say. The time savings that translate from the action figure model to the full-size costume are substantial. Figuring out what materials you may use during this process will point you in the final direction of what you'll eventually use, like wood, metal, PVC, foam sheeting, plastic, metal pipe, or fabric. Deciding these now is well worth the effort. Things to remember with all these haunt models. Most people will not see what you see with any concept until you can show them a version of it. Models are a phenomenal way to do that. In one look, you can explain to others your concepts in three-dimensional space with scale, feasibility, functionality, with artwork and style. You can express to another person the feeling that your idea created in you, the one that inspired you to make it in the first place. I wrote this show near what I hope is the end of the first wave, as they call it, of this pandemic. I'm sure, like many of you, I'd be happy to only hear Corona when someone is asking if I'd like a beer. But while many of us are inside, models are an incredible way to keep working. Working on haunted attractions, costumes, props and mechanisms, electronics, all the things that can be very time-consuming when putting our shows together. This can be an opportunity to do a lot of that work in miniature. So when we get the go-ahead to actually go and get things done, all we have to do is follow the plan we've already worked out and build it. And models are very therapeutic. One other thing. These models are a great way to document what we have in our shows and how we grow or change them through the seasons, especially if you have a temporary show like most of us do. These can become keepsakes you will treasure as time goes on. I know I value the ones I have made and wish I created others way back when so I could see them now. A final word. While working in miniature brings along its own problems like glue, bending wire, using substitute materials, and handling small parts, and so on, it also saves tons of time and money that you would spend creating a full-size prototype. You're working out ideas, concepts, solving build problems, and bringing those models into focus. I like to call that last process dialing it in. After you know your ideas will work, it's the tweaking of details that makes the finished product look so polished. Anytime you bring something from your imagination into the physical world, that is a form of magic. Think about that. You're performing actual magic. You might as well be Harry Potter. How incredible is that? Well, look at the time. Okay, we'll wrap up this segment for now. In future episodes, we'll talk about more aspects of professional haunting, their methods, philosophies, how-tos, and so much more. But I see our moments here are up. So until the next time, be safe. This is Wick Ed Gannon, www.somethingwickedproductions.com. And you can always find me at edgwicked@aol.com since the 80s. Saying, have a wicked day.
Hauntcast. When the wolves tear down the walls, you will see the devil alone. You better run, 'cause it's the end of the line. You better run, 'cause you're all out of time. Upon her lips, a whispered lie, polluting all I am inside. From a withered rope we hang above your pain without your love.
Interviews with haunting gurus.
Breaking quarantine with me is the head honcho of the haunted Laurianne Woods in Gainesville, Virginia. It's Ben Newman. What's up, Ben?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it was a pleasure.
I got to fill space with somebody. You know, I got time to.
Well, you're dredging the bottom of the barrel now.
That's what Sudsy told me. But I said, no, I want to interview him anyway. He added me to his Facebook DC haunt group.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, hey, welcome. Where are you located? I'm up here in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Well, that's going to be a long way to go for a make and take. Or like I said, I don't know why he added me, but he did, and I'm here. So, hey, how are you guys? Sudsy's been a supporter and listener of the podcast. So I said, hey, man, who are some of the best people in your group? Well, the guy who won the best walkthrough, or he's been like the consistent best walkthrough, is Ben Newman. I'm like, cool, hook me up with him. Where is he? I've never come across you before, as I do run into people over the years who I hadn't come across videos or anything. So it's always good to discover people I kind of haven't run into over the last decade or so. So, how long has the haunt been in existence?
Yeah, we've been doing the haunt since 2013 as a walkthrough. With 1 year off, we had 1 year where I broke my leg 3 places, so it turned into just a yard display that year. Couldn't do much.
You know what they say about excuses?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like assholes.
But we
everybody has one. Anyway.
I broke my leg in September, so it ended up we just scrambled to get do a yard display and everything. But yeah, we started in 2013, and it's taken on its own life now. It's out of my control. Growing every year, and we do support our local food pantry, taking donations, and we get a lot of volunteers, great people that come out every year and help me build, help me do all the acting around the whole 9 yards. So great group of people. Yeah. And then Mike, I've been with the DC area home haunters 2 years. So new to that group, but that's a great bunch of guys, invaluable resources. They either have it or they know how to get it or they know how to make it. So it's been a great group to also be a part of.
Is that group fairly active? Do they get to do get-togethers and stuff?
Yeah, we'll meet, since I've been into it, of course not this year, but we usually meet starting in the spring through midsummer or so, like at least once a month. Try to pick out 2 or 3 different projects we're going to work on, and then everyone comes out in the fall to do the tours of everyone's different either yard displays or home haunts and stuff like that. So
that's
cool. A really good group. Yeah.
You have one holy effing shit ball pro quality setup there for the haunt. Like, I was watching the video, I was expecting it to be a lot smaller, I guess.
That's what everyone says.
So many hallways, and it seems like it's a lot more hallway versus like these bigger rooms that you go into some haunts, but just the maze is pretty lengthy. How large is it roughly, like square footage? Because we know it's all about the square footage. It's not about the actors or the effects or anything. It's about how many square feet you have. But how many square feet is it roughly, if you know?
I couldn't, it's in our backyard. So the last time I ran it with the linear measure, I think we're walking a little over 700 yards, but it's just in our quarter acre, like half of an acre backyard, just a lot of twists and turns in the woods to make it seem a lot bigger.
I seriously thought it was somewhere on some other like town property or something. That's all on you. That's all in your backyard. Holy shit.
Yeah. And we get a lot of people that come and it's like, well, okay, it's charity. Oh, they come to the front of the house and think, oh, it's pretty unassuming, because we try to minimize what's out front just for the neighbors' sake and everything. And when they get through the haunt, they're at the intent talking to the people that are hanging out there. They're like, how many backyards did we go through? Because that couldn't have been one house, right? And we're like, no, we just make it really twisty and turny to keep you off your guard and not sure where you're walking.
How do you deal with the neighbors on all of this? Do you have a good neighborhood where they're supportive of this, or do you have headaches, or how do you handle it?
We have been amazingly fortunate to have like a neighborhood that's been very supportive, and since day one, we kind of knew we were looking to move and checking out this open house, and they were talking about, oh, this neighborhood does a lot of community stuff together. They do the Christmas lights, like decorating contests, and it's like they even do a decorating contest for Halloween. I was like, oh, this is the place. We're gonna have to move here. This is if they're gonna do that, they're gonna. I got to get in this.
Yeah.
And
my peeps, my peoples.
So after a couple seasons of like I think they finally said that we weren't allowed to win the decorating anymore. So
you were disqualified.
We were disqualified after too many wins in a row. But yeah, it's been great. Everyone's very supportive. Knock on wood that we keep going that way. It's almost like a rite of passage. A lot of the kids, when they're too young, are scared to go through. Then they get a couple years older, they go through, and then like the next year they come back and they want to act or be involved with the haunt. So
they graduate and move.
Yeah, graduate up
to acting or assisting in some way.
Yeah, and then I lost a lot of them. Now they're going on to college, but they'll come back and still swing by and see what we're doing for the next season. Want to know what new theme or what new scares we're putting in. So definitely been a great experience.
How many shows do you put on? How often are you open in October?
We'll do two weekends before Halloween and then Halloween night. And usually we'll do like one Sunday afternoon just for like the chickens or the little kids that don't want to get scared without actors, so people can just walk through.
Yeah. So it's Friday and Saturday for 2 weekends, and then Halloween. Now, if I look on your website, it said that you weren't open last Halloween. Was that correct?
Yeah, we had a huge storm come in, so we made the decision to cancel because it was hitting at like 7 p.m. right during like key time when we're getting started.
I just dodged that bullet by the storm came in, and it was over by about 10 o'clock a.m. In the morning, and I could not believe it because all of the I don't want to bore people because they've heard the story probably too many times last year, but it cleared up just in time, and though I did dial things back because I couldn't test out some animatronics that I wanted to put out because of the rain. So we kind of scaled it, and I didn't do a walkthrough last year either, but may do it this year because it is Saturday, I know.
Yeah.
And if I can get the neighbors to close the street down, we might be back to a walkthrough this year. So let's talk about the backstory and just explain your backstory to us.
So to do an overall, we have 6 different sections, but the overall story is how there are certain places around the world that are just unholy, cursed grounds, and this actually happens to be one of them. So our initial story tells the tale of a man that moves here during the Civil War era. We have a lot of Civil War battlefields right by, so we tied some stories into that. And it's the tale of his unfortunate woe of deciding to build his home on this land and all the things that go wrong for him. And then he starts making deals with witches and the black goat of the woods to like raise his dead family. So we have the undead coming back to life. We tie into a lot of, like I was saying, like history around here and some of our local legends. So we morphed the Bunny Man story, the legend of the Bunny Man, to tie in, and then other characters are around when you go through the different sections. They're still tied to that first family. So we have like the descendants of that are all become cannibals and mutated from living on the land for generations to his distant European cousins that bring their traveling circus to America and get stuck here as well.
Is the Bunny Man an actual town legend or something?
Yeah, and nearby to us in Fairfax County, there's a legend of the Bunny Man. If you look it up, there are several stories in the Washington Post about a man in a bunny suit with a hatchet that was attacking people on what was like the Lover's Lane at that time. It was back like I think the early to mid 70s. And it kind of became like a creepypasta story now. So Bunny Man's all over everywhere. So Yeah, we have a bunny man that's you come into you have to go through his house, and he's abducting people, and he's got people tied up, and all his maps of victims and bunny costumes he's making.
Now, you even had a little Lovecraft kind of woven into your prologue.
Yeah, kind of tied in like the cursed ground, as if we ever build to it and keep unveiling a little bit at a time, is if we ever dig deep enough into that ground, we may find some of the old ones buried beneath it in slumber.
Yeah, you had that quote from Color Out of Space. Now,
yeah,
who does the voiceover for your videos? That guy is amazing. Who is that?
He is fantastic. I found him, of all things, just came across him on Fiverr. He's a DJ in Ireland, and he does like voice work and stuff on the side. So his voice was perfect for what we were going for. So
good deal.
He did all our
$5 for that.
No, not $5 for that. That's the hook. That's the hook to get you on there. It's like $5 if you want 5 seconds. He did our voiceover, and he also did a voice track for us, animatronic skeleton we have that does the rules while you're waiting in line. So
yeah,
he did that one more in the style of a Vincent Price, but did our narration a little bit more serious.
You got a nice set of chops on that dude. I'll have to get his name from you later.
Yeah, and then I told him, I said to people like, "Oh, let's change theme this year." I was like, "Nah, we can't get rid of that good audio we have for the narration for that bit."
What does your build season look like? Like, how much effort do you have to put into setting this thing up and putting it all together?
At this point, with the size we've gotten to, it's getting close to year round. We'll usually start meeting with like the core guys that help me out all the time doing building, talking through ideas maybe in like January, getting everything kind of drawn out between then and February. And then once spring gets rolling around, we'll start doing building, get everything ready, and try to spend the hotter summer months here doing the detail work, what's all the heavy building's done. And still, regardless of how early we start, I'm still doing lighting at the last second right before everyone's coming in. But yeah, we've gotten to a point now where we've figured out how to build a little smarter and build things so we can kind of leave it in the areas that are in the woods on our property set up, because we were doing a full tear down every year, and so much effort was spent into just tear down and putting the storage versus being able to build new things. And kind of focusing, we decided how to work around that, and so we can kind of focus more on building new things all the time.
How has the haunt developed over the past number of years? I mean, what were you doing prior to 2013?
We moved in 2011 to this new house, so we were just doing some small yard decoration, but Halloween's always been a passion of mine, and I've, like, since I was probably 11 or 12, wanted a haunted house of my own. So finally convinced the wife to let's do something in the backyard, and we can be part of like a little bit more than the standard decoration for the contest. And that first year, it was just us and maybe like 5 friends that would just come over, like, hey, hang out with us. It's going to be a good time. Have a couple beers and some laughs. And we had very minimal stuff, and like maybe 20 people came. But it's every year, it's kind of like wildfire. It's grown, and now we keep adding on, and then started going to some of the conventions, so like MHC, attending some of that, learning more, meeting people, reading everything I can find online. And now we're like we said, we're building full structures, and I got maybe about 10 to 12 guys that are core builders, and we usually run an actor pool of about 40 people, like maybe 25 to 30 every night. So it's like wow. That's what I said earlier. It's taking on the monster's taking on a life of its own now.
What do you have, like 5 different areas within the haunt?
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6?
Yeah.
You change out a couple of those every year?
Yeah, we were for a while. We were changing or adding. Like I said, we started small and we just kept adding since we had space, more sections. The last 2 years, we've kept the themes that we have, but we haven't changed those. We've just added more to them to fill it out, put some more scares in there, do a lot more detail work and stuff like that once we had the structures in place. We begin with a walk through the cemetery and then into a mausoleum. for our first story. Then we come into a cornfield that has a kind of a Children of the Corn cult that's also mixed, like kind of a demented version of the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, where they're sacrificing people to the Great Pumpkin. Into a spider forest with a witch house that ties back to the first story, into the traveling circus, and that area has all our blacklight with the chroma depth, like the 3D glasses. You go through for that section. One of the big tent mazes, and when you come out of the tent maze, you go into the Bunnyman shack, and then finally you go through the Cleburne family's property. You have to go through their slaughterhouse before you get run out into our backyard and the safety of the gate to get back to the road.
Where they lock the door behind you, is that when you enter the mausoleum, or do you enter like an elevator? Is that right, or what happens?
Yeah, that's right. So the first part, when you're getting through the graveyard, we added a elevator. So there were some miners that broke through, and it's like into like a lower level that year. Before we didn't have the elevator, you just came straight in, and you ended up doing the claustrophobia tunnel towards the end of the mausoleum. We moved it up to the very front, so once you came out of the elevator, it took you into the claustrophobia tunnel at that level. But yeah, we had the elevator, had it synced up with some of the color piano lights and a soundtrack. And in the shaking, it was one large spring, so it's just another guy behind. So we had two miners, one in the front, put you in there, sent you down, and they were shaking on the big springs on a platform. And then the second miner came around to let people out, so it looked like it was a different guy as you had gone down like deep into the underbelly, the catacombs of the cemetery.
That's cool. How does that affect you over pretty well?
Yeah, everyone loved that. It was the first night using it. We had to work out some kinks with it as far as timing. We put it up in the very beginning so we could kind of control the crowd flow with like, which groups or when we were letting groups in, because we knew if we put it in the middle or towards the end, we would have a huge backup. So kind of used that up front to be our crowd control. Lessons learned the first night with some of the the audio track and stuff was a little long, so I had to go back and trim it down, cut the ride part of it out a little bit, so it wasn't as long as a trip in the elevator to speed things up.
So it's on springs. That's it.
Yeah, it's a huge. Huge springs on a platform, so it's not like an airbag or anything.
Yeah, I've seen the airbag. I've never seen any of these things up close, or tried to build them myself because I just don't have that kind of room. But the claustrophobia room, right, or with that hallway, is that? Do you buy the claustrophobia, or is that something that you hand make? How do you put the claustrophobia room together?
Those bags, the vinyl material I bought off of already pre-made from a vendor on eBay. So I just bought those secondhand, used off of someone on eBay that was selling stuff. And then it's just two of those bouncy castle air blowers to fill it up. And then a lot of work over every season re-engineering it to make sure it was tighter to hold more air in there. So we've got it now where once you get in there, it's a squeeze to get through.
Now, so the air constantly is blowing into them, and there's an exhaust. So when you're pushing through, it lets the air go out, but it immediately fills back in. Is that how it works?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
See, I'm not so stupid. I can kind of figure some things out. The Ouija board effect. I noticed in one of the hallways you had a little Ouija board with the thing moving around on that. How is that done? Is that with magnets underneath it or something?
Yeah, exactly. So the planchette has a magnet under it, and underneath the Ouija board is a motor just doing a pattern with a magnet, so it just drags it around. And that's really set up in that scene where it's the cult has a room of basically, it's almost like a communication room. There's mirrors, and each mirror has a Ouija board beneath it, so you're talking with the Ouija board and the mirror to the other side. The mirror for that one, to draw your attention and to look at the Ouija board, that mirror is a two-way. So we have an actor on the back side of that appears once you're kind of looking at that. And underneath the table, there's an air cannon that the actor controls on the back side of the wall to also shoot the guests when they're completely distracted by either the Ouija board or the actor. That's a great scare right there. It gets them
Yeah, you can never fail with the air cannon. That's the one thing I absolutely run every single year in my haunt, and no matter what else breaks or doesn't work properly at some point during the night, the air cannon always rock solid. It just works and just kills every Halloween. There was an effect that was, I think, in the Fields of the Great Pumpkin, and it looks like it's like a blast of fog and a light. It's like almost like a fire is blasting up. Tell me how that works. Explain that concept.
That's one of the newer fog machines from Froggies. Has a upshot cannon to shoot your fog straight up, and you use like the quick dissipating fog so it doesn't hang around long. Basically, your exhaust where your fog comes out has a circle of LED lights around it, so you can get different colors, different effects. So we were using it for like a blast of fire as the cult leader steps out to do his scare there for you.
That is a great effect. How much did that run you? If you remember.
I don't remember exactly. It's several hundred. It's a little pricey, but it's a cool effect. I saw it when we were at the
punch.
Yeah. It's one of those. Even when we didn't have the cult leader for a couple nights, we just even had the person that was the standstill scarecrow that was just doing a very minimal scare. Still be able to set it off and get a good pop with it.
Yeah, it's great. It really caught my eye. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I may have to pick up one of those things. Let's see. The Lair of the Spider Witch. Nice use of beef netting. Very, very impressive beef netting work there. I was thinking of, because I have a roll of beef netting, and when I was doing a walkthrough, my first walkthrough, it was all wood, and then I had problems with the town, and I couldn't have anybody walk through its structure. So I could have them like do a maze type thing as long as they're not walking into wooden walls or whatever. So I grabbed beef netting. I was starting to do that whole like spider area in there. And it's been sitting in a box in my basement. I came across it the other day, and then when I was watching your video, I'm like, you know what? I should do that just on the front of the house. Because I put spiders on the roof, so maybe I will pull out that beef netting and get some use out of it and drape it all in the front of the house to have that like spider nest effect thing going on. The Traveling Circus and Oddities area. Where did you get the red and white vinyl sheets for the maze?
That was from George Mazer. He does a lot of the if you look him up on his Mazer tents or on eBay, he sells those tent kits, and he does like the flamethrowers and other sort of things like that. But yeah, I just once again eBay finding like a version, like he had like a 25 room tent maze up there, and grab that up because that's been something that's like, and one of those like you kill yourself where you spend so much time doing detail, and then everyone just loves the like simplistic like maze. Everyone's been like crazy about the maze because we'll just put a ton of clowns in it, and they're all like the younger kids that can still move and crawl underneath it. The old guys are like, I don't want to have to blow my back out trying to sneak underneath that thing all night, but the kids are crawling under there, so like 2 or 3 of them can cover that whole maze, and you see them like multiple times over. So people love that part, especially when they think it's like a real maze and they keep getting lost, but it's one singular path. You just can't remember which room you've been in because they all look the same.
Yeah, they just have to push on the wall to see which one they can push through. Is that
exactly?
There's no signage or direction. They just have to kind of feel their way through.
Yeah, there's just one of the panels has one side loose, so you just got to find the loose side to get through.
And it's just cable tied on.
Right? Yep,
that's
just
all
zip tied vinyl panels zip tied onto like an aluminum frame with the 5-point connector at the top, so you can just keep make any kind of pattern square rooms that you want to hook together. So
now there was one. I'm not sure if this was effect. I assume it was at one point. It was somewhere after I think that maze where It looks like there's something going on the floor. I'm not sure if it's one of those like rocky floor setups or.
I believe which time, but I can't remember. The years kind of blur together, but I think at that point we had as part of the, it was one of the spring bridges. So we had like furniture foam built onto a bridge. So you had to walk across it. So it kind of dipped and swirled with you as you tried to cross it. But we did it with the blacklight paint. So you were wearing your 3D glasses at the time.
Okay, so it kind of put you off kilter. You kind of off balance.
Yeah, and then as you walk into it, like, pieces of it feel like they're shifting underneath your weight and everything.
At some point, you have one of the actors, cast members or whatever, giving them the 3D glasses when they get to that certain room or that portion of the maze.
Yeah, we usually work it in to be a character that ties in. So one year we had the bearded lady that's in the oddity section just handing glasses out right there. They get collected at the end of the 3D, which is right next to where she's at. So they can the person that collects them just hands them right back. So they're doing like a big loop, but it feels like they're coming out a different direction. We had last year we had a girl that was volunteer that could do like contortionist work. So she was doing like the spider walking and contortionist and looked like popping her arm out of socket and then handing you the glasses when she finished her routine. So anything to distract people while we're waiting to get that, and then someone else sneaks up behind them right before they go in and give them a push, give them a scare and push them into the 3D.
Yeah, I take you. So you lost her already. You had her for a year, and now she's gone.
I had her. No, I had her last year. It really depends on how things go this year. Who comes back? Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully she'll be back. Yeah, she was awesome doing the contortionist work. That's something you see at every place.
Yeah, I could hear the air cannons going off. I could hear what is it? I don't even know what they're called. The auga, like those horns.
Yeah, the one of our clowns has the clown blaster, the bright light hooked up to the horn. Yeah, that'll just kind of like sneak up right behind someone in the tent maze and goose them real good with the gun to make them jump. Yeah, we do a lot of like pneumatics. I think we had like the air whips, like the leg whips on the ground. The air cannon, of course.
Had
a bunch. I don't think.
Did the legs the ankle tickler or the leg whips?
Yeah.
You got a good reaction out of those?
Hit and miss. Some people freak out because they don't like things like touching their feet or whatever, and then some people are already moving through so fast they didn't even know they were there.
Yeah, that's the problem I had. I used it for like a year or so, and I found that you have to also keep the area very contained so that that if the person can sidestep, if they're not on both sides and they're only on one side, if a person's on, kind of sidesteps to the other side of the hallway, they kind of misses them, and if they move through too fast, it doesn't kind of work. But you did have some pretty good actors in there. There were some people that, for just your typical amateur kind of haunt, I thought were pretty cool. There was like a Sikh character that was a little sick looking. Do you know where that mask comes from?
Yeah, the mask we have two masks at the end in the hillbilly section we got from Immortal mask.
Oh, okay,
so
they were both Immortals.
Both of those were Immortals, yeah.
Probably where I saw it.
Yeah. What
else? What are some other cool things that we don't see in the video? Do you pretty much capture everything in there, or is there any other really cool effects that you really like that work extremely well?
Yeah, there were several things that didn't get in the video that night because we were usually we're running around so crazy keeping the show going. It was like, oh yeah, did anyone remember to do a walkthrough? So we have a couple more of the pneumatics. There was one pneumatic that I don't think was in the video that's at the beginning of when you go through the entrance of the circus to go through the oddities before the black light. We have like a drop flailing clown from Poison Props right there that just drops right down from behind the big clown facade. And we got a couple more just pneumatics where I bought from, I think it's from DC Props, and then we put our own zombies and stuff on them that are in the cemetery to kind of it's a large area for the graveyard to fill with actors, so we kind of mix like actors in with a couple of pneumatics in that section.
DC, Brent's my boy.
Nice.
Yeah, he's I still own a couple of his a couple of things. I think I have a pneumatic drop panel for him. I sold off a few things because I had to rotate some stuff out that I'd used for years. I had this bushwhacker prop that was really cool, but once again, based on the redesign, I had to lose that, and I had this coffin extender that worked so amazing for so many years for me, and eventually I parted ways with it as somebody wanted to buy it off me, and he basically paid me what I paid for it. So because Brent's prices went up, so it looked so
looked like a good deal.
Yeah, it looked like a good deal to him, right?
Yeah, there's another.
Doesn't listen to the show, so I guess I can say that.
There was another, the room where you were talking about the guy with the top hat that was talking about the deader, like he's can't keep him in control.
Yeah.
That wasn't working that night, but the coffin behind him was also pneumatic, so the lid was popping. He was supposed to be over there trying to hold it down to keep the bodies in the coffin when you came through that room. So we'll do a little mix of, like, not every character in there is evil. There's some that are like good, kind of like to help you through your journey. So we kind of mix that up. So
yeah, no, that's
not
good.
all boo scares. Yeah,
especially when you're doing it as a a Halloween. Still, it's a yard haunt. So you don't need to be too over the top and have everything trying to coming at you full throttle. As Revenant says. You need to have like a little sorbet. You can't be like rah rah rah. Scare. You got to have highs and lows. You got to let it
exactly.
You got to give them a little sorbet in between. The next one kind of cleans their palate and gets them ready for the next. So let's see. Funding the haunt. How do you fund the haunt?
Yeah, for the vast majority, it's coming out of my pocket. So. Fortunate to have a job that pays well, so I can fund my hobbies. Like I said, we work with the Haymarket Food Pantry, which is an area food pantry here. So for the most part, though, like since we're like at a home haunt and everything, we didn't want to charge for it. And I said, as long as I'm at the property, I'm not going to charge people to come. I want it to be like a community thing, and people donate what they can. So. We've been very lucky in the last couple of years. A lot of people have been donating like a really great amount to help the food pantry out, and it's all worth it. Otherwise, I was like, what else am I going to be doing? Do some other hobby to spend money on stuff that's not giving everyone as much joy.
Yeah. Look, what are you going to do? You can pick up golfing and spend tons of money on rounds and clubs and lessons, just to frustrate the shit out of yourself, or. You could be a haunter. I think the choice is pretty easy there,
I agree.
Do you even have to advertise at this point? I mean, obviously, I don't know if you need to get more people in, or do you still try to up attendance?
Outside of just like having the Facebook and the website, we try to keep a pretty low profile just because we're in a residential neighborhood, and the first couple of years when we weren't having like super big turnouts, I was like, oh, we gotta tell more people, gotta get the story out more and more. And now it's at the point where the wife's like, yeah, if you bring any more people here, like we'll have to kill you. So because we'll have lines that are now like out into the street. We're having to get crowd control and talk with the county and everything for getting like off-duty police to do crowd control, and so it's like I said, it's growing every year, and it's like at this point until I can find a new location to move, crowds are good about where they're at. So
what about
any more than that? I was like, I think I may be going beyond.
What about your actors? How do you fill the acting slots?
Like I said, we get a lot of, like when we first started, a lot of just our friends and neighbors helping out, and I now go to a local college, George Mason University. They have like at the beginning of the year, like a get involved fair. So go there on campus and have like a table set up to recruit people. Outside of that, it's like word of mouth or people that find us online and sign up on the volunteer form. So yeah, I mean, it's been good between those two, and just like I said, the kids that help out in the neighborhood, tell all their friends, and now it's gotten to the point where just people from local high schools have come to it and know about it, and like, oh, I know XYZ volunteered last year and said it was awesome. Can I help out this year? So between adults from like our friends group and then college and high school, we're pulling in our actors that way.
Awesome. Hey, why don't you give a little scream out to your main crew, your build crew, or some of the other people on your team?
Oh, our main bunch is like number one, the core team on the build. We got Gary, Dave, Ethan, Melvin. Great bunch of guys there. Our actors, like, I can't say enough for like how awesome those guys are. They come out and we don't let them just show up. They come out to do actor training with me. We do several sessions of like in set training and then a run through. So I think the top hat you're talking about, our gravekeeper there, his name is also Gary. We got a cat. Connor, great people. August. I mean, there's so many. I mean, we have an awesome set of people that help out.
All right.
Yes,
now,
sir.
if anybody wants to either volunteer to help out, they want to find out what the schedule is or any other details about the haunt, where can they hit you up on the interwebs?
Instagram and Facebook at Haunted Laurianne Woods, and then our website, hauntba.com.
All right. Check them out. Ben, I appreciate it, man.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Are you satisfied now, you fools?
Scream outs go out to all of you twisted sickos. You know who you are. That have been listening to Hauntcast for years. Or even those who've just recently stumbled into the show and have been listening for a couple of months. As you know, this has always been a labor of love, but costs run up quick, and oddly, we don't qualify for Trump bucks. So any support that you have given to the show in the past or present is much appreciated. If you've been a PayPal, Patreon, or Subscribestar supporter of at least $10 a month or more and haven't received access to exclusive digital content such as my sound effects library, or if you're a supporter for $25 a month or more for at least 4 months and haven't received a free t-shirt and or mug, hit me up at hauntcast@mail.com. I've listed a few props and will be adding a few more to my Boomer book group, to my Facebook group, Baker's Halloween and Haunt Yard Sale. So ask to join to be notified when I add some new items. If you have any suggestions about haunters, props, or anything Halloween or horror related that you would like us to feature on a future episode, once again, hit me up at that same email or message me on Facebook. It's time to dig into our bag o' swag. Scully's going to hook you up with some prizes that he's recently looted from the local Target. First up is the tutorial DVD, How to Foam Carve Your Haunted House. Scully, stick your COVID-ridden digits into the cauldron and pick us out a winner. Mike Pickle Sniffer. Dingus, that's Mike Picklesimmer. All right, next up is the Spiders, Snakes, and Bats Effects DVD from John Myers. Marky Mark Constable. Well, you guys should know the drill. Send me your shipping info so I can mail out your major awards. Hauntcast will slither out of the cesspool on August 7th to deliver another cochlea-crushing episode. Well, as some gear motors just arrived, I'm off to start working on my cauldron creep. If you have a prop that you've been putting off, then get the fuck off of social media and get to it, as it's not going to build itself. As for now, the dungeon is closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast.
But I can't leave them, I can't. Yes, go. You live.
I'm going now. Heaven help you.